Hi, I'm Emma Rodgers,
And I'm Jacob Chan.
and we're going to be here at the Hull Fire Station to celebrate Repair, Reuse and Reimagine on the 8th of March. We'll both be running workshops in the studio. We'll be happy to show you around and show you how we work with clay. I'll be making some pieces with broken plates and things that would maybe go in landfill, but how we can incorporate them into the clay. And Jacob will.
I'm going to be doing a tile making workshop, so something that you'll be able to take away. And we'll be using two types of clays. One of them is going to be a clay that's been gathered from around the gardens of Port Sunlight itself. So come along and it's going to be great.
Yeah, we'd love to see you all, and yeah, feel free to come and have a play with some clay with us.
Hi, I'm going to be doing a tile making demonstration, and I'm going to be using very basic materials and tools that you could probably use at home. So I've got a tile board here, which is just made from a piece of plasterboard and some thin pieces of wood that you can adjust for the height of the tile that you're using. The clay body that I'm using is Rich Miller's tile body from Pot Clays, and it's really, really good for this sort of work. It means that the tile body itself won't warp in drying processes, and it just allows you that extra bit of flexibility during the drying stage. I'm going to be using some slip which has been gathered from Port Sunlight itself. The clay has been repurposed down by using water, and we'll be using that to decorate and scrape back to reveal the surface of the clay body. The first thing that I would do is I would get my clay and I would get it into a block sort of shape like this, which is perfect for using the harp like this, which is just a repurposed broomstick, a piece of piano wire and plastic bag really, which is used to tighten the actual harp itself. So once you've got your clay flat down on this tile board, what I do is I tight down and I'll pull back, take off my top layer of clay, which reveals a really nice clean cut piece of clay, which is perfect for taking any sort of piece of wood that you've cut to size, which you can place on top, like so. Take a knife and just cut off the edges. Once you've taken off your top piece of clay, that's ready to then be transferred onto again, just a piece of plasterboard. What the plasterboard does is it draws a lot of the water moisture out of the clay, so it stops it from sticking to normal table surfaces like marble or even wood. So it's quite a nice material to use to stop anything like that from happening. So I just flip it over, drop it onto the tile board like so. So this gives you a really nice surface then to work on, and like I said, this clay it's full of what's called malachite. Malachite stops the clay body from warping, so you've got a lot of leeway there. So I'm just going to get my slip down, just going to put a bit on a paintbrush and then just drag it over. Like so. Once you're happy with the clay slip that you've decorated on top, leave it to the side to dry for a bit. And this is one that I've prepared earlier. Once it's at we call it leather dry sort of stage, you should be able to touch it without it gripping to your fingers. That's ready to be worked on then. So there's a number of techniques that you can use to decorate this. One being using stamps. So if you've got any sort of stamps, you can press them down, leave an impression, which gives you really nice to work with. Another way is scraping back, which will reveal the colour of the clay body underneath as well. And then finally you've got what's called a slip trailer, which is just almost like a turkey baser or something like that. So you can fill that up with another coloured slip, which is just, all the slip is it's clay that's been watered down with a lot of water. You'd squeeze it in, and then you'd be able to write with this onto the surface, and that would leave a really nice contrasting colour in the kiln once it's been fired. Another thing that you can do is build up pieces of clay onto the surface and really bring a 3D life to your tile. So I'm going to go back to the tile that I made previously. This is just a bit of porcelain. You can use any other clay. You could use the same clay that you've been working with, but this is just to demonstrate the nice contrast that you can get. So I'm going to be making a little koi fish. So I've just rolled out this piece of clay into sort of like a sausage form. What I'm doing is I'm just stretching the body into the shape that I'd like to see it in. So you can sort of see its body's developing. Just going to push out the spine there and bring out the front. And then I'm going to get my thumb and I'm just going to drag back the tail. So. Pinch this bit here and allow that to fold in. Same again for the fins. I'm just going to pinch a bit of clay with my thumbs on either side and then just pull it back. If the head's looking a bit long, just get your knife, cut it, and that gives you that really sort of nice flat part of the head that's coming down. And then I'll pinch in the smaller bits for almost like the tendrils on the carp's face, and then just very quickly you can get like a pin tool or a sharp edge, just put in the eyes, so, and then whenever you're attaching any piece of clay to another body of clay, you want to make sure that you score the bottom of your clay with a sharp tool, and then the same on the surface that it's going onto. So it would be sort of like this. Using your slip, you just put a little dab of clay onto the surface, and then you press that down. And you can still rework into it while it's on there. I always like to just put a small dot on the koi's head to finish it. And that's another way that you can build up surface decoration onto your tile.
Hi, so I'm going to be making a swallow today. I quite often will use broken plates within my work because I think they're still quite beautiful. It seems a shame to put them in the bin, so quite often if I've got broken plates I'll just keep them in my studio, and if they can become like a nice clean edge of a wing, I think that's really quite interesting. So, and I also use like bits of broken shells and stuff that I collect on the beach. So I'll loosely wedge a grogged stoneware, which is a Rich Miller clay. It's a really nice tough clay to work with, and I'll loosely wedge that with a porcelain. So then you've got the contrast of the strength and the textures from the grogged clay, and then it's really plastic, the porcelain clay, so that's great for like fine details like beaks and claws and stuff. So this is a bit loosely wedged. So I like the contrast as well because the glazes react slightly differently. So I'll wedge that up and then just roll it out so you can see all the way through the threads of the clay. Let that firm up a little bit. And then the slip I'm using today is from what we found, some of the clay bodies around the gardens in Port Sunlight Village. So we've just wet that down so it's almost like single cream consistency, and that will act like a glue when you're mixing the clays together. So you normally, if I'm adding on a wing, you'd scratch each side and stick them together. So that's almost like behaving like a glue for me today, but it can also be used as decoration because it's quite dark. So I'll get started on the bird. So it'd be like a wall-mounted swallow that I'm going to make today, but I often use like bits of broken plates and things in there. So I'm imagining the edge of the wing, back-handled knife, fold that over, turn the excess. I'm going to fold up. I'm just creating basically markers for my pieces today. So I'm pinching in where I'd imagine a tail, where I'd like the beak to kind of be, and that can be kind of folded over. Tear back. So it's just markers at the moment. I'm going to start on the wing. I collect lots of bits when I'm at the beach, so it's like shells, cuttlefish, anything that I think will provide texture. So I like to use nature to make natural objects. So I just sort of start at the edge. So I'm doing the very edge of the feathers. I'm just using the edge of the cuttlefish. Pull that out. Then I'm doing the next layer of feathers down. It's literally just flicking that. And then the next again. I don't like them to look too neat. I don't like it looking over-handled. I want it to look as natural as possible. Now, quite often, if it's a bird that would be like naturally in the woodlands, like an owl, I'll use branches and twigs and bark from the trees rather than making it look like realistic feathers. So then I'll start pinching out that lower beak. I'm imagining this is its chest plate and going through to the lower jaw. Bring that round, pinch in that, and we can take off this excess. Shape to that one. And again, we're going to tear that off, tuck that in. We'll get the side of its body then as well. And then I'm just going to, that's quite a nice piece for this actually. I'm going to take this out. I'm imagining this is the top of the skull of the bird. I'm going to pinch out its beak. Imagine the eye socket there. And down to the back of the skull. Offer that up. You can start to like really move them around. Imagine that it can turn its head, flap its wings, try and get some life into it. Might pop that up a little bit. Bring that beak out. Get that nice and pinching off the excess. Offer them up. Pushing that through. Tiny bit of slip. It's quite nice, it's this like dark, rich base, because that when I start to put the black glazes on after it's been fired, you'll get a richer undertone coming through there as well. And it's quite nice that it's from the land again. And I'll mark in a very sort of crude eye. Don't worry, it's not going to stay like this. And then I'll get a little blob of clay, roll it into a ball, press this out, get some textures on, peel it off. So you've got these lovely, like, they're great for like waves or feathers, scales, any sort of texture. The cuttlefish is quite sympathetic to. And then I've got very little nails. I'll press in my thumbnail and you can kind of open up the eye socket. So you get an eyelid as well. And we'll just put a tiny dab of slip on there. Press that over. I'm starting to get a little bit of a face appearing there. You can even like, because we've made the beak the way we have, you can even make the, you know, them sing if you want them to. You can really play around with that. And then nostrils, so you can breathe. Turn this round a sec. Getting those tiny details in. It's always worth taking that little bit extra time on like, the finer details. That's what kind of bring it to life. I'm just exaggerating that eye socket now. Maybe bring that its jaw slightly, but so I'm working from the inside out, just pressing the knife into the back of what I'm imagining is a skull and just pulling it out. So because you've done that, then you can kind of turn the head around. You can sort of like really play about whether they're alert or quite sleepy. You You can really play around with the details of the face. Then we'll go on to the tail. So I'm going to pinch that round. Just take off the excess. Then with the edge again of the cuttlefish, I'm going to draw it along. Start to get those tail feathers starting to appear. And then the plumage on the chest, you can really like rough that up, get that lovely sort of fluffy plumage that they have on their chest. Bring that in, twist the head up, put a little prop under there. That'll be removed when it's fired, so you won't see any of that. And the other wing. And I'll start showing you how we include some of the ceramics. Things like this, I think that makes the perfect edge to, I love the contrast, that perfect edge to like a nice clean wing. So if I was going to pop that in, when you add them on, you put an extra amount of slip and lots of like quite mushy clay, and that will allow for the shrinkage so it kind of bonds on. If you haven't got much slip or wet clay around it, it will just either bond and crack or it will fall out. So you just kind of go a bit extra on these. Let's get that wing ready. Drag. Around, your excess. Drag again. So I'm just looking at all those different layers of the feathers and how much more compact they are the closer to the body that they go. You can also sort of like give it a little stretch if you want. I'll do the other side as well. Because I do like to try and imagine that they are like a 3D creature. So see, you can put the wing at any angle that you wish. It's just taking flight or a bit of slip. It's always best to make everything a little bit too big and tear away than add on, because then you'll get a more natural line. So on here, I want that wing to be slightly smaller. Pull that right in. Bring that to the edge. Get that nice sort of torn edge there. Some props on. It's starting to come alive a little bit now, I think. So I'm going to put a little bit of slip on the tip there. I've got some more mushy clay just here. It's going to go right into there. I love the sharpness of a bird's wing, and then when you think of how it's been constructed, and we can just fade that out with some slip on there. But we've got that lovely clean edge, and then we've got a few more nice ones. But it just seems a shame to waste anything like this. And then when they're fired, you'll get that lovely contrast again. So that can go in there and be blended over. And once the glazes blend them as well, they just look like they've always been part of it, but almost like an armature or a bit of the bird's own bone structure. And then finally, I'll just make the claws. Just roll out some sausages. So I imagine that there's a bone structure inside these, so I've sort of pinched side to side, curl it round, go right the way around. So that's the front middle toe, back toe, and then I'm folding back up to the ankle. I do try and imagine that there's like a bone structure within all my pieces, and like if I've got a 3-dimensional bird, I'll hold it in my hand, almost trying to imagine that heartbeat. Just pinching in that ankle now, and then we just get sausage of clay, roll that out, pinch out the toes. We're just doing the tip of each toe now. If you build them like this, it just makes it a bit more sturdy. So we'll push that underneath. The clay is quite soft, so I don't really need a great deal of slip. So you've got the claw, and then again, because you've made the claw in this way, you can make it it could grip onto my finger, because you've actually put those joints in, or it can be outstretched about to take flight. So you can really play about with the bone structure there. And then I'll put like a little socket on. So only attach onto pieces where the actual joints would be naturally in the body, because you always get a much truer line. And then we'll just add that claw on.
with a little prop underneath it till it's dry. And then that'll be fine in the kiln.
Okay.
Thank you.